Well, welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to be here at Love Fest. I am the astrologer of the group. We have been speaking to getting our energy flowing with our bodies and our energy flowing with our creativity. And now I want to speak to our spirit flowing. I'm going to do a presentation here astrologically about what I call the karmic traps of 2021. This comes from a huge yearly presentation I do called Countdown 2021. Which if you want to see the entire presentation, it's still available. It's at wateki.live if you want to take a look at that. But regardless of that long demonstration, I am committed to bringing to the masses what I know, especially this time, to help people get through this period in time. And for some of those people who may not follow me or follow astrology, I will say, kind of kick this off, that we are at an unprecedented time in human history. I probably don't have to tell you that as far as your own observations of what we went through last year and what we energetically have been going through as a collective over this last year. But I will affirm that astrologically, this really is the time you were born to live. This is the moment that we all came for in Earth's history. We've been waiting for Earth to go through this particular period, maybe for 1,000 years or so, coming out of the Dark Ages. And that's the first thing I want to say is we are coming out of darkness and coming out of the Dark Ages. Last year in 2020, the universe was basically exposing truth and sort of cracking the foundation of a lot of how we manage things, our organization structures, government, multinational corporations, these big top-down ways of managing humans, I think is ultimately what we can look at as the model that's starting to expire. And this, I think, is a spiritual process where God, universe, nature grows from the inside out. God, universe, nature grows from the bottom up. And we have built our society, distribution, everything from the top down. So at the moment, the incredible tension and stress that we've been feeling is the fact that these top-down institutions and top-down organization plans are just now starting to be a little too top-heavy, ultimately, and unable to serve the population at the bottom. This is no matter what we did or didn't do, we constructed our organization on Earth to be this way, which is sort of against nature. And so we would have reached a point where things would have started to crack no matter what we did. And that's just our youth as a species. So in this year, 2021, we make our first step to change, to real change. And I know all of you watching are probably hoping that that real change is in society and in the world. But I will say that we do start to see great change in society and the world this year. But most of the change is actually personal and starts with you. That's because you are organic-based spiritual life form, and you grow according to nature, which is from the inside out and from the inside up and from the bottom up. And so in essence, this year, the universe is putting pressure, energetic pressure, psychological pressure, spiritual pressure for people to come out of their sort of dark age posture that they have been in since they were born. And what I mean by dark age posture is a variety of things, living in fear, living in doubt, not grounded, not connected to our emotions, not connected to our body, distracted from the present, living in the future, living in the past, all these different points of consciousness, simply we are outgrowing. And in 2021, the universe is saying it is time for us to come out of that process. And I believe, for those who want to keep the old way going forward, it's going to be an incredibly more and more difficult year. And but for those who are proactive about growing, particularly in the spots that I'm going to lay out today, I think you'll find yourself not only not in the chaos, but also probably an unintended leader in your sphere of influence, because humans really have no resources as far as how to develop ourselves on the inside, how to manage our feelings, how to cope with our problems. Like This is my practice for the last 15 years on YouTube, has been helping people to cope with being human and trying to maximize this experience. So I will say, if you're concerned about the earth, if you're concerned about the things you see, this is a time to focus on yourself, to dive into the areas where you can grow, and you will inevitably be an example for those around you, and you'll begin to lead from the bottom up, which is a power structure that is difficult to topple. When you are grounded and your feet are planted, so to speak, in who you are, and you're aware of who you are, and you're on top of your spiritual needs, you are very stable. When we are putting our needs into government or into assistant programs or into anything outside of ourselves, not that these things are bad, these things are good, but these things, I believe, ultimately have to be built to help people when things fall. They can't be how we live day to day. So this could be a very disruptive year in some cases, where for some people, the rug will be pulled out from under them. And in that moment of sort of instability, people are forced to find their ground. In fact, I'm going to give you sort of a big picture of how things are going. Last year was certainly a shock, I think, to everyone, and we saw everything sort of freeze up, and we were all forced to go inward and look at our own stuff. And the world didn't really budge very much last year. We didn't move forward. We're still not traveling, etc. So things are sort of stuck. As we came into 2021, you probably all felt incredible stress here in the United States from November, the election, until the end of January. Incredible stress going on just with what was going on. And honestly, if you would have removed that, the conditions of politics and the COVID vaccine and other things, just those out of the system, storming the Capitol, all the headlines that we thought we were stressed about, I would tell you, we would have been stressed if we were just sitting at home watching TV. That stress was the pressure I'm talking about for us to transform our inner self. And in that moment, we have blamed, the nature of human beings is to, you start to feel stressed. You're like, where's it coming from? Where am I feeling so stressed out about it? And so we go, it must be the politics. It must be, my person won or my person didn't win or whatever. But the truth is that we're being pushed to change on the inside, and our mind is assigning these causes to us outside of ourselves. So the first thing I want to propose is to begin the enlightenment process this year. So this whole presentation is avoiding karmic traps in 2021. One karmic trap is that the power is outside of you. If you think the power is outside of you, you're going to get stuck in the trap. If you think that your solution is going to be something outside of you, you're going to be stuck in that trap. It's a sand trap, like in golf. You'll be digging around for a long time to get out of there. If you're wanting something outside yourself or something above you to be your rescuer or the one that makes everything okay. In fact, you're going to see that we start to separate into two groups here on Earth. Ones who become spiritually self-reliant and ones that become spiritually codependent. And those are the two different ways of going. These are spiritual processes. Codependency is a stage we go through. Independence is a stage we go through. These are all stages. So I'm not judging where anyone is right or wrong, but I do know one feels better than the other and one gives more energy and power than the other. So as we started this year, you felt this tremendous stress and energy in the first couple of months. That was, in my opinion, all planetary, pushing us to make some resolutions inside of ourselves. And I think, fine, I don't know, but when I look at stuff on social media and whatnot, the world has sort of fallen into two camps of politics and two camps of belief structures. And I'll tell you, both camps are not happy. Both camps are unhappy because the solution is not outside of us. The solution is not in the world. The solution is in our hearts. The solution is in our spirit. So to kind of give a map out of this year, the first part of this year, I'm going to sort of walk you through the year. I'm going to walk you through the planets that are involved and what where God universe is working on us consciously. And then at the end of this, I'm going to walk through all 12 of the signs and talk about how these planets apply to each of the signs. So we're talking about the themes and the year at large, and then what each sign needs to do. And I'll do that somewhat quickly, but in the end, so it's all categorized for everyone. So this stress in the beginning of the year, just to give you sort of an outflow, this was a stress to get everyone sort of self-sufficient and into their own power. And I'll show a map of this as we go through the year, but the stress will cool off until June, at which point we have more stress than you had in the first 2 months. So as far as spiritual challenge is concerned, the collective consciousness will be extremely spiritually challenged from June through October. So it's going to be an extremely challenging time where we have to grow. And then we'll go through another extreme growth November through the end of the year. So when I speak to you right now about these things about self-improvement, I'll tell you that a good deadline to be on top of it will be June. In fact, I'm going to give you some specific dates. You guys might want to take notes. I'm going to give you the dates that will be the hardest this year. And if you know me, I am mostly an optimist. I'm always pointing towards the light and where the light is going. This is one of the first times as an astrologer where I'm laying out all the hard times. And I always talk about the hard times, but I usually have people focus on the good. Now I have a different strategy. I want us to prepare for these difficult times because I do think they'll be more extreme than we have been used to in the past. So it's going to be a year where we're kind of free flow until June. And then from June to the end of the year, it looks like a lot of challenge. So let's talk about what the conscious themes are going of the year. And I'm actually going to refer to some specific, really 4 specific astrological points. And I'll speak, if you know astrology, then this will resonate. If you don't know astrology, I'm going to simplify this so it can. Probably the biggest change that always happens in astrology is what we call the lunar nodes. The lunar nodes are actually a mathematical calculation that's determined by finding the crosshairs of the sun's ecliptic, which is the orbit of the sun in the sky, and the orbit of the moon in the sky. And so wherever the sun and moon's orbit is connecting, we call the north node, and 180 degrees from that we call the south node. This ends up being the combination of our heart and feelings and where our heart and feelings are headed towards. And this tells us astrologers what the big picture of change is happening for people. The north node right now is in Gemini. And it was in Gemini on May 5th, 2020. It will stay in a Gemini till January of 2022. So we're basically, for this whole year, we're doing North Node Gemini. North Node in Gemini means that the collective is being, what we think and our collective mind is being rewritten. So the first thing I want to say as far as a karmic trap is, if you're thinking about it the same way you used to think about it, you're in the trap. If you're thinking about it the same way you used to think about it, you're in the trap. You must change the way you think about it, even if it's a subtle update. And if you feel you're just so correct in the way you think, still try to come up with another way of looking at it. So we're being busted out of this year certain mind games. This is mind games. This is propaganda. This is lies. So anywhere where the mind has been falsely led, anywhere where you've falsely led your mind, this is a year of coming out of incorrect mental perceptions, which means that we will be wrong more than we are right this year. You will be wrong about things. Wrong meaning, oh, I thought it was this. Oh, no, it's that. So if you want to make your life easier this year and avoid the karmic traps, go ahead and step back, get yourself a pipe like a forefather or something, and start thinking about other ways of thinking it. Don't take the first answer ever, and never make a choice without having another choice. That's my advice. So it's like, oh, I'm going to go here. What's your other choice? Oh, I don't have another choice. Then you may fall into a trap if you don't change the way you think. Now, the last time the North Node was in Gemini, forcing us to think differently, was October 2001 to April 2003. And here in the United States, that was the month after 9/11. So you can think back to 9/11, October 1st, right after that. How did your thinking change? How did your perception of things change? We saw it happen nationally, where suddenly we have to take our shoes off when we go board on planes. A lot of the way we think about safety and think about terrorism and think about government, all sorts of things, we ended up changing how we think. There were also lots of laws that were passed allowing, for the sake of terrorism, eavesdropping on citizens and things like that, which is, Gemini is also law. So citizens need to be very, very alert of the laws being written worldwide, because this is a time when I've seen in history, the laws that don't necessarily benefit the people get passed. So we want to be very careful in that sense, and we want to be very careful how we're thinking. So we're going to be thinking differently this year. Look to think differently, look to say it differently, look to express it differently. The South Node in Sagittarius is the counterpoint to this, which means that we're changing our beliefs, we're changing our stories, we're changing our narrative, we're coming out of certain cycles. So this means there's going to be a lot of ending to certain stories. You know, my story, you know, I'm an empty nester now. So the story of me raising kids is now over in that chapter. So holding on to an old story, trying to revive an old story, probably not going to work. What you believe about it is the other aspect that you ought to say, maybe it's something else than I once believed. So remaining flexible on what you think, remaining flexible about what you believe, and the story you tell yourself, this is going to help you so much. Most of the fight that I'm seeing happen, particularly in the first 3 months of this year, was that people just can't believe stuff. Their mind just can't handle it. They just like, this isn't what I believe life was. And a lot of people are walking around in disbelief. So, and I'm saying, let's not fight the disbelief. The world is changing. We're moving into a new era. And so what we once believed is not going to be the way it was. To give a bigger picture of the story, this year is when we change what we think and what we believe. And 2022 is when we start to see world change. So just to be clear, you changed the most this year, and the world has changes for sure, but only the beginning changes. Most of the change this year is you, and you're preparing to change the world next year. That's the timeline, and this is the re-evolution of humankind. So North Node in Gemini, South Node in Sag. Change our thinking, change our beliefs. Now, I'm going to give you some dates of when this will happen the most. Okay, these are based on the eclipses that happened this year. On May 26th of 2021, there is a lunar eclipse at 5 degrees Sagittarius. And I'll just say that around May 26th, what you once believed about yourself, something will be over forever. And this will be a big belief, a big belief. Like I used to believe I'd always be married. I used to believe I'd always have this. I used to believe this. So a major belief is going to end, and it'll be around May. I'm just letting you know to help you understand. So you don't feel crazy, and recognize that your life and your relationship to yourself will probably change dramatically at the end of May. On June 10th, there's a solar eclipse at 19 degrees Gemini. So something falls apart on May 26th. And on June 10th, a new belief and a new direction of thinking happens. So if you're planning something in your life, something major or a change, it's very likely that you're going to come to a big change personally over from May to June. And also you should know that whatever your plans are now, you should realize, if you're planning a big change, you might plan it for May to early June. And if you know something you want to do that is important to you, you should probably do it before June. So if you have projects or things that are important to you that need to be wrapped up, if you're wanting to change jobs or change residence, change the state you live in, I would recommend getting that stuff done by June 1st, because by June 10th, that second eclipse, the world is going to start to really begin to change in a fast way and become unpredictable. The other two eclipses this year, November 19th is a lunar eclipse in Taurus. And in November 19th, I'll just say, I'm concerned about financial systems. I'm concerned about food distribution. I'm concerned about big business distribution. So we could have some sort of disruption in business. There's many things this year that show disruption in business, disruption in stock market, perhaps inflation of the US dollar. And I'll just say now that I'm on the topic, mid-November looks sketchy, and so does late April. So late April, mid-November, sketchy for money and potential changes there. The last eclipse is December 4th. That's an eclipse at 12 degrees Sagittarius. And that means that at that point, our beliefs about what life is going to be is going to change around December 4th. So mostly this is all this year, you changing, a big change in May, June about what you think and believe, a big change in November, December about what you think and believe. I will just tell you the Mercury retrogrades as a courtesy. Mercury retrogrades in Gemini from May 29th to June 22nd. May 29th to June 22nd. That will be a downtime for business or whatever. So get contracts and things signed before May 29th. And Mercury will retrograde in Libra between September 27th and October 18th. So those dates that I've given you are hot dates. Those are dates when I wouldn't plan anything important. I wouldn't plan a launch of anything at that time. If something's already in motion, then it was destined. And anything that happens to your life during that time is probably destined. Destined meaning it was out of your control, no matter how much you would have thought it was in your control. So let's get on to the secondary pressure of this year, conscious pressure. And that has to do with Saturn in Aquarius and Uranus in Taurus. Saturn is in Aquarius. I'll speak the astrology and I'll speak the simple talk. Saturn in Aquarius is a big deal. The last time it happened was between February 1991 and May 1993. So if you're alive between February 91 and 93, then what you're about to do is sort of an extension of what you began in that time. You're going to carry that story to the next level. You'd have to be obviously over 30 to be able to have that span. If you were a kid in 91, then you were setting up the story and now you're starting to do the first chapter. Saturn Aquarius does mean that it's time to take responsibility for our enlightenment, which is Aquarius. What is enlightenment? And this is the part of that is going to separate you from the karma or not. Enlightenment is whether or not you are basing your life on heartfelt attraction. So we've come to a point in human history where for the people who don't follow their heart, they will be put onto a certain path. And for people who follow their heart, they'll be put onto a different path. This is the great split of our human collective consciousness. Not all your friends and family are going to join you. You may meet some of your friends and family in heaven again, or on the other side, so to speak, as they say. I have a friend who says the road to heaven is single file. You meet your friends and family on the other side. And that's very true right now. Each individual, although we're here for each other, this oneness event is to help each other. It doesn't usurp that, the people who do the work and focus on the inner self are going to excel with less stress and less struggle than the people who expect the world to love them. So that's a good way to put it. If you love yourself and take responsibility for loving yourself, you will excel. If you expect the world to care for you and the world to love you when you haven't, you're going to find yourself stuck and in compromises and probably attached to parts of the system that are not going to be very stable. Saturn Aquarius says it's time to take responsibility for loving ourselves in everything we do. Aquarius is the opposite of Leo. Leo is our love for ourselves. Aquarius is our love for ourselves in the world. So the world changes and evolves because individuals demand a loving path. That's how the world's going to change. That you demand a restaurant that you love, that you demand a yoga center that you love, that you don't give in to the job you don't love, that you don't tolerate the toxic relationship that you don't love. When you choose the path of love, you are evolving the planet. When you choose the path of lovelessness, you're keeping us in the dark ages. Everyone has a spiritual vote. Their energy is going one way or another. We may slip into very loveless and dark path for us to learn that we need to choose love. So humans will learn the hard way if they choose to learn the hard way. And to be clear, the hard way is the loveless way. So it's time to take responsibility for loving ourselves. This year, that's basically what the commandment of Saturn is. Saturn goes from 1 degree to 13 degrees Aquarius. 13 is a grandmaster degree of Aquarius. 13 is the revolution. Keep that in your mind, because when Saturn hits 13, we hit a revolution. What's the revolution? The revolution is I can no longer tolerate loveless situations in my life. I can no longer tolerate loveless situations. It will become too painful. Or the organizations that are loveless or the jobs that are loveless, they'll start to fall apart. It's really love that makes the world go round. So these loveless corporations, these loveless organizations, loveless laws passed by governments, these will start to crack and really show their poor design. as Saturn hits 13 degrees and demands a revolution of change. And 13 is the revolutionary degree. The United States sun is a 13-degree Cancer. The United States is a revolutionary Cancer and a sleeping giant, really. So I think for those who have given up on the United States, that would be a bad mistake. Okay, like the United States people are very revolutionary in their hearts, but also will put it off to the last minute. You know, in the United States. So taking responsibility for being loving to yourself, that's first and foremost. Are you being, so for those of us who have not been loving with our health, not been loving with our self-care, this will bite you in the butt now. You will be left behind. Yes, you could have until this entire time not cared to love yourself or care for yourself this entire time. Since 1991, you may not have done it. Last time Saturn was Aquarius, but we're at a time now where it will be drastic. So Saturn Aquarius is a big force to take responsibility for loving yourself and being where you are loved and where you love. Uranus in Taurus is the next, Uranus in Taurus is the next big innovator. Uranus rules Aquarius. Uranus is the age of Aquarius, basically. So the energy of Saturn in Aquarius is Aquarius energy, and Uranus in Taurus is Aquarius energy. We are surrounded by age of Aquarius energy this year, and it's focused on us individually and our day-to-day lives. Uranus in Taurus says it's time to innovate our values and ourselves. So instead of valuing your cigarettes, value your juice. Okay, like instead of valuing certain stressful moments, value your peace. What we value on the inside is the other major component to whether or not we're going to grow. So if your life is tough this year, you have to ask yourself, am I being responsible for creating a loving journey for myself? Am I valuing the right things? And valuing the right things are obviously valuing things we love. The last time Uranus was in Taurus was June 1934 to May 1942. So Uranus and Taurus, our value change, those change in values are what led up to World War II. Obviously, Germany had very dark values that they built during that time. Other countries had very neutral values. So when I say build values, don't assume that they're things that are loving values. We can value horrible things. Some people take time and space and they worship painful experiences. So Uranus and Taurus allows everything to grow based on what we value. So if you keep valuing, in other words, value is time and attention. If you keep giving time and attention to things that hurt you, you will grow the pain right now. If you keep giving time and attention to toxic relationships, you will grow that toxic relationship. Anything we put our time and attention to right now is going to grow. And so these are the two primary forces that are putting tremendous pressure on the collective consciousness here. It is Saturn and Uranus, and what they're doing is what we call squaring. They're at a 90-degree angle, which means that we are at this revolutionary point where our values and our loveless structures are going to start to pull on each other and pull each other apart. So this is why structures that are loveless or structures that have put a loveless time and energy into things are going to start to be sort of under an earthquake energetically, and they're going to start falling apart. We're already seeing that anyways. If you watch the headlines, you're seeing loveless organizations. We're starting to see things come out. We will, because people are coming into the light, they're going to start to become very concerned about the world and what is and what's going on in the world. So there'll be a lot of public interest. Saturn-Uranus square is ultimately the pushing that's forcing us to evolve, and this is the pressure that's going to cause issues to fall apart this year. They come to a squeeze. They squeeze us 3 times this year, really hard, almost an exact square. The first time was actually in February 17th. So I don't know if you felt like we were in a very dense, sort of frozen world in February. I called it frozen February. That was the pressure for individuals to change. So in the first square, the pressure was for you to come out of your lovelessness, for you to come out of your poor values and come into your strength. And that's the theme from February until June, just so you know. June 14th is the next big push. And I expect June 14th to create global issues because it's at 13 degrees on June 14th. So just so everyone knows, June 14th is a breaking point, and so if anything is on the verge of breakdown, 14 will push it over the edge. So I would be cautious. I am actually telling my subscribers, you probably should stock up on food and water and things like that because it's very unpredictable as to what may happen in that time. You'd rather be safe than sorry. We're not out of the woods by any means. And I want to make sure that that's clear to everyone. Unfortunately, the world has a lot. Just look at how sick the world is, and you'll realize how much work has to be done. Okay, like, so I'm letting you know so you're prepared and you're on top of it, and probably a thought leader or a leader in your sphere of influence because you're prepared. We're not meant to. Human beings are not meant to fail. They're meant to succeed, but they're going to have to do what it takes to succeed. So June 14th is a very stress point. It's 13 degrees. I would expect civil unrest to be happening for one reason or another. I don't know what will cause it. I can think of a million things right now. I mean, what happened last year with civil unrest, I would have never imagined. I would have never imagined what we saw in the cities or what we saw with demonstrations and why people were upset. I would have never imagined that. So I can't imagine what it will be, but I can tell you that June is definitely a very hot month. The next third point, to be clear, on the first one, February 17th, that is a breakdown of our inner self. The June 14th is a breakdown of our outer world, like our day-to-day world, our self in the world. So this is your community stuff with this is why I'm concerned about food and things like that, because it's basic needs that are also breaking down, or systems of basic needs. And then Christmas Eve, unfortunately, is the third pinch point. Christmas Eve has to do with integrity. And that's when we will start to come up with a way to heal. So it's breakdown of the self, breakdown of our daily environment, breakdown of what's necessary to heal. Those are the three big peaks this year. There are times that where those things get aggravated. I'm just going to give you aggravation dates. You can put a red box around these on your calendars. These are days I would be careful about travel. I would be careful about, I'd just be careful, full of care. July 1st, July 3rd, July 29th, a lot of heat in July due to Mars and Leo. And then November 10th, November 17th, a lot of heat due to Mars in Scorpio. Okay, so now this comes down to practical change for individuals. I want to do a little screen share though to kind of show you visually sort of what I'm talking about. This is an awesome site I recently found called Archetypal Explorer. They will present astrology transits in this graphic form. So what I have here is I've got 2021 outlined here for us. Here's where 2022 starts. Here's where 2021 starts. This gray wave here is the Saturn-Uranus square that I'm speaking of. This is the square that you can kind of look at this as an axe chopping down a tree, because that's ultimately what it is. It's chopping down the loveless situations on the earth. And of course, loveless situations will capitalize on this chaos. So I think loveless environments, loveless corporations, they take advantage of these moments. So don't think that they're necessarily coming down. What the universe is doing here is preparing the individual and coming to turning points for us as an individual. But you can see here from January, you can see how it peaked right here in February. You can also see from Jupiter square Uranus some of the chaos. This peak right here, that actually is the Capitol building seizure right there, just so you know. That was the Capitol building seizure. So this plays out literally as a disturbance. And this is, you can see the stress that we had here up through February. As you can see here, we are now in March, and it's going to get quiet here through April. And so mid-April is one of the easiest times for getting things done. This is also a window for making a change of life, change of business, that sort of thing, where the world isn't interrupting. And then here up in the June 14th, we come to that full peak. May is the best month of the year, just so everyone knows. So if you're planning something important, May is the best, easiest month of the year. So we have this peak here in June. Then you can see the tension comes all the way down here in October. And so this part of October is going to be, as far as personal stress, between September and November. This is another period where there'll be a lot of easygoing, a lot of negotiations, a good time for business to do things. And then, of course, Christmas Eve, we come to a full peak. You know, if there weren't vaccines available and these other methods of treatment, I mean, you know, if there was no solution, I mean, I don't want to even predict what's going on with COVID, but I would say this would certainly go be aligned with potential lockdowns or potential slowing down of the world or the economy at these peaks. I've certainly noticed that that's been happening so far, but the narrative is changing. So again, it may not be from that narrative, but we will certainly see things sort of slowing down. Now, I'm going to just add one more planet on here, which is the planet of aggression, Mars. And boom, look at that. As you can see, Mars is creating many spikes of conflict this year. And they spike up one, and I won't go through all these, of course, but I just want to give you a visual. Now, remember how crazy it was the first of the year until February? Look at all this angry aggression spiking going on in the collective consciousness here. So you know already from living January and February what that may feel like. And so we will have these spikes of Mars aggression. This is Mars squaring Neptune, Mars opposing Pluto, etc. These are all harder aspects. But the point is that we have this tension, and then we have these little dramatic spikes. It's a dramatic, to some degree, it's a dramatic year. And by the way, Mars is mostly interacting with these planets of the big curve. So this is Mars screwing with this curve. Now, I'm saying that this year is going to be up and down, is what I'm saying. Literally up and down. And so, and what is the main cause, or what is the main lesson here? The lesson is coming into our own sovereign energy inside of us. The lesson is us coming into our power and rewiring our inner self so that we stay sovereign with God, consciousness, universe, nature, our creative flow, that we stay in that. And as the world changes around us, that's the goal. And if you are staying in your sovereignty and your integrity inside yourself, you are, I think, affecting the outcome energetically of these big changes. This is the beginning of the transformation into the age of Aquarius. What you're seeing here is the beginning of the fall of age of Pisces. And what we're having exposed are the loveless institutions, loveless governments, loveless billionaires that cause friction. And so this friction is going to come forward and be seen this year. I don't know if it'll be fully addressed this year, but I do feel that this year the individual will walk away transformed, and those who are awake, empowered. So I do believe now, with all this change and chaos, there is tremendous opportunity. People who are in the light, who are in their heart, who are here to have the solution, this is your time. This is your moment. You're preparing yourself this year, and your solutions will be needed extremely next year. So all the people who have the solutions, who've already been born, who have the ideas in their head, who've always sat there and said, God, I wish they would do it a different way. Get ready. We're going to need your vision in about a year. This year, you make the cocoon transformation of your inner self. Basically, it's a wardrobe change. You're still wearing the Dark Ages Pisces costume. We need to take off those clothes, those things that we used to, drape ourselves with, and drape ourselves in now with the robes of love and light and friendship and community, and also networking with the people who are like-minded. And I believe that those people who are in the light are going to soar. So that's the weird thing about attraction. You know, magnets can come together and stick, but when you flip it around, they'll push away and go farther. So the people who are aligned in their hearts and on the right path are going to shoot up faster than they have ever before because of the way the polarity is shifting. So this talk is not to scare you. It's on the contrary. It's for you to take that fear and transmute it into your fuel, because it is time for those who are in the light to shine. And for those who are living in the other institutions, and they're going to have a harder time. So I want to go through now. That's the big picture of things. I'm going to go through and talk about, for each of the 12 signs, where Saturn and Uranus square are affecting you as a sign, and also where the nodes are affecting you, where the new what is beginning and what is ending. And I will go through these at a decent pace, and then at the end I'll take questions from our panelists here. All right, so we'll go through the zodiac naturals and think. I think it's always helpful, by the way, to think of the people you know with this, especially if you're the ones in the know. You can keep an eye out for your friends and family that might be going through this. So Aries. Arieses are going to be thinking different by the end of the year. The way Arieses think are not going to stay the same. So it's new ideas, new thinking, new logic. Beliefs are ending the way they used to believe. Aries, it will not be the way it has been ever again. It's done. It's going to change now. The story is going to change now. Aries are going to really surprise people. They're going to leave some people's lives because they're moving on to another story now. So they're thinking differently and they're leaving old beliefs behind, old stories behind, maybe even a degree behind. They must raise their vibration. So Aries must take responsibility for raising the vibration of their environment, their neighborhood, where they live and where they work day to day. Arieses must raise their own local world. They must put themselves in high vibration situation. They must maintain high vibration where they are. Arieses, that's Saturn and Aquarius. Uranus and Taurus for Arieses, they must raise their self-esteem. They must value themselves for spiritual reasons and not material reasons. So upgrading, raising their value of themselves and raising the value of what they put their time and energy into. So it's a responsibility for their local world, raising value of their self-esteem, new ideas, old beliefs dying. Taurus. Tauruses are now moving into new financial investments. So it's time to put your time and money into new products, high vibration products, move away from any business that's not clean or green or on the right path in that direction. And what you are moving away from is an old story about boundaries. So Tauruses are leaving old trust mechanisms. You're not going to trust the same things you used to trust. You're not going to have the same inner circle you used to have. You're not going to protect the same things you used to protect. What's in the safe is completely changing. So Tauruses are changing what's in the safe, and they're changing what they invest to make. Tauruses must take leadership with their decisions. Every decision you make, Taurus, must be high vibration. Your career choices must be high vibration. So you cannot make low vibration career or low vibration for yourself. Always choose organic, basically is what I'm saying. You're at a point now where you don't have any time. What you must also innovate is you must innovate the way you behave and treat yourself. So the way you treat yourself, the value of how you treat yourself must go up. Your behavior must go up to higher value. So how you behave must be higher value, and the way you treat yourself is higher value. So Taurus, responsibility for career and self-leadership, treating themselves with a better value, new money, new investments, old things in the safe are out. They're getting a new safe and new trust. Gemini. The North Node is in your sign, Gemini, so you are coming into a new character, new behavior, new ways of responding, new ways of thinking. You're coming out of old relationships. So relationships are going to be ending now. Certain commitments to certain people are ending now, certain stories around, and that's a relationship to chocolate, relationship to kids, everything. You must take responsibility, Gemini, to believe in yourself now. You must believe in yourself and be the one that believes in yourself first. You must also follow the knowledge that is heartfelt, not the knowledge that is fear-based. That's Saturn and Aquarius. Uranus and Tauruses, you must innovate your faith now. You cannot live in fear. You must innovate your spiritual practice now. So Geminis need to go into spirituality in their own way, no matter what it is, whether it's yoga in a simple sense or meditation in the grand sense. Upgrade your faith and spirituality. Take responsibility for believing in yourself and your knowledge, and realize you're becoming a new person. Cancer. Cancers are moving into a new faith now. You're going to have faith in new things, and old lifestyle is going to change. So your old life is over, the old job, the old routine, the old neighborhood, all that is over. It's time to have faith. That means that it's invisible trust. You have to trust blindly in what feels correct. You must take responsibility, Saturn and Aquarius, in trusting yourself. You have to be the one to trust yourself. You have to be the one to make the boundaries. You have to be the one to cut out the negative and only protect the positive. So Saturn Cancers must trust themselves first and draw their own boundaries. Uranus and Taurus means that you must innovate your values in the world. Cancer, you must only hang out with people of the same sort of value structure. I'm not saying be mean or cruel to people, but deliberately put yourself in the groups that you value most. Move away from areas you don't value, and go for a social reputation that you feel proud of. So new faith, responsibility for trusting yourself, responsibility for raising your values in the world. Leos. Leos are going to have a new social life, a new neighborhood, a new world that they're going to live in. They're leaving their audience and finding a new audience. So Leos are getting a new audience, and they're moving away from an old love story. They're moving away from old creative projects. They're moving away from old relationships to children. So it's a new social world, and it's gone with the old love life, gone with the old story. Leos must take responsibility for treating themselves like royalty. If you expect the world to treat you like royalty, you will fall into the gap of being codependent. You must be the one to treat yourself like royalty and make your relationship to yourself high vibration and your relationship to others high vibration. So your relationships are where you have the key. Uranus in Taurus means, Leos, you must now raise the value of the decisions you make. Your career path must be high vibration. The decisions you make for yourself must be high vibration. So Leos, it's a new social world, old love life ending, taking responsibility for high vibration relationship to yourself, taking responsibility for high vibe decisions, and high vibration career path. Virgos. Virgos are now moving into a new career future and a new legacy, and they're moving away from home, family, childhood issues. So a lot of Virgos everyone had a bad childhood, I would say, that I know, but Virgos, it's time to walk away from that. You're done. There's nothing else to process. You're done. You've already gone to therapy. You've already done it. Unless you're 18 years old, even if you're not 18, even if you are 18, it's time to not focus on your childhood. It's time to focus on where you're going, what you're doing, and what kind of mark you want to leave on the planet. You must take responsibility, Virgo, for your health and your daily lifestyle. You can no longer be unhealthy, taking care of unhealthy. You must be healthy if you're going to take care of people who are unhealthy. You must walk the talk that you preach when it comes to your health and your lifestyle. You must also raise the value of believing in yourself. You can no longer second guess yourself. You can no longer doubt yourself. You will ruin things if you doubt. The world will doubt plenty enough. You don't need to do it. So you must innovate your values and believe in yourself and value the knowledge, pay attention to the knowledge that is worthy and let go of the knowledge it's not. So Virgos, it's a new career future. It's moving away from home and family, taking responsibility for health and daily lifestyle, upping the value of believing themselves and upping the value of true knowledge and wisdom. Libras. Libras are now going to move to new belief and new wisdom and new theories. So Libras are going to probably flip. This is one of their flip times. They can literally go from God to atheist. Libras have that ability. So you're going to flip in what you believe. It's now a new vision, a new belief, a new story, and your old way of talking, your old way of thinking about yourself is dead. Move away from the way you used to think. You're getting a whole new mind wash, Libra. You must take responsibility, Libra, for loving yourself. And you can tell this is age of Aquarius, right? What brings the age of Aquarius? When a Libra loves themselves first before another, that's age of Aquarius. Like, holy, that's pretty new if you know Libras. They're so good about loving others. So you must take responsibility for loving yourself. Take responsibility for high vibe creative projects. Don't attach yourself to anything that's not high vibe. Don't let your heart be attached to anything that's not on your level, okay? You must innovate your trust in yourself. You must draw the boundaries. You must maintain the boundaries. You must have positive boundaries. You cannot let anyone penetrate energetically your walls. So for Libras, it's about innovating the value of your boundaries and the value of your security, like making yourself protected from what is not at your vibrational level, and taking responsibility for loving yourself, all the while believing differently and thinking old thoughts going away. Scorpios, which I know is half of our hangout here. Like, Scorpios, you're moving to a new boundary structure, which is gigantic for you. Scorpios are going to go through a huge, they're basically going through, they're going to sort their laundry into two piles, one that goes out, one that stays, and one that goes. Scorpios are spending the whole year reevaluating who stays, who goes, who stays, who goes. And what they're doing is they're taking out the low vibration stuff and only keeping the high vibration stuff. You're moving away from old business, old ways of making money, Scorpio, old ways of being known to make money. So you're moving away from your old business and you're moving into what you can trust and only with what you can trust. So a lot of people not understand why Scorpios are moving on, but it's because they feel they can trust it. So you cannot be around anything you don't trust, Scorpio. That's always the case, but because you're kind of tough, you usually would do it anyways, not anymore. Scorpios must take responsibility for their feelings and how they feel. They cannot nurture someone else before they nurture themselves. If a Scorpio is not on top of feeling good, they'll fall into the old codependence where they're stuck in situations. Scorpios must take responsibility for a home life that's high vibration and that nourishes them and brings and recharges them. The other area that Scorpios must take responsibility for is the relationship to themselves and the relationship to others. So you must now have a positive relationship with yourself all the time, Scorpio, and you must now keep positive relationships in your life. Toxic relationships will become more and more toxic and will break down. So you're sort of being weaned off of Scorpios. Just because you can tolerate doesn't mean you should be tolerating. So it's time to trust what you can trust, throw away what you can't trust, move away from old business, take responsibility for your feelings in your home life, and manage your what you value in your relationship to yourself, and and focus on the relationships that you really value. Sagittarius. Sagittarius are moving towards new relationship patterns now, and they're moving away from old character, old ego. Sagittarius are going to go through a morph that's already happening. They're not the same person they were. They're not behaving the same they were. They're not defensive like they used to be. You're basically going through a big ego change. So your old ego habits are dying, and you're creating new relationships and new bonds with others. So Sagittarius are probably going to end up, being in another clique or another group or another, perhaps another relationship as well, different romantic relationship or otherwise. You must take responsibility, Sagittarius, for your thoughts. Your thoughts are what put you in the dark house. You must have positive thoughts. The way you talk to yourself must be positive. You must use positive language when you speak. All this will help you avoid any sort of entrapment or breakdown. You must also innovate your health and your lifestyle. So no more can Sagittarius do a binger from Friday till Monday morning. The universe is not going to allow you to do that anymore. These are my friends that I would party with, by the way. So I'm not shaming them. I'm saying party's over right now. It's time to innovate the quality of their life, innovate their overall lifestyle. So Sagittarius cannot work in toxic environments. They cannot live in toxic situations, and they must be good to their own body now. So for Sagittarius, new relationships, old ego patterns dying. Take responsibility for your thinking and your thoughts. Take responsibility for your health and your lifestyle. 3 more. Capricorns. Capricorns, you are moving to a new lifestyle now, and you're moving away from old karma. So Capricorns are going to reinvent their life. That's work life, that's health, that's routines. You might have, it already started. This already started, by the way, this in late last year. So this is probably fall through of COVID and all that sort of thing. But you're moving into a whole new lifestyle, and you're moving away from old fears and old karma. You must take responsibility for your self-esteem now, Capricorn, and this is important. Your self-esteem is not based on your bank account. It's not based on your job. It's not based on your title. It's based on you valuing yourself on the inside before you even go into the job. So an enlightened Capricorn knows their value before they even try their business. So you're taking responsibility for self-esteem. Capricorns also must now go towards clean businesses and love-based business. Any loveless business will have a hard time surviving if it's run by a Capricorn. So the universe is pulling that out of the system. You must, as far as values are concerned with Uranus, it's time to value your love for yourself. It's time to value creativity. So Capricorns must value self-love, must value their love relationships, must value creative projects and raise the value, put more time and energy into heartfelt creative projects. So Capricorn, it's new life, old karma dying, taking responsibility for genuine self-esteem, taking responsibility for loving themselves and raising the value of self-love inside themselves. Aquarius. Aquariuses are starting a new love life, a new personal dream, a new creative path, and they're moving away from an old reputation in society. So Aquariuses are going to get a new title. They're going to move away from what they've been known. Basically, Aquariuses have not been living an age of Aquarius life. And so Aquariuses are pulling out of the age of Pisces life now and going straight into what their heart really wants. So Aquariuses are being cued to start the age of Aquarius now. And that means following your heart. So you must take responsibility for how you treat yourself, Aquarius. Aquariuses are notorious for being cool to everyone else and mean to themselves. You must now be responsible for how you treat yourself and also for how you treat others. You never treat others poorly unless you're treating yourself poorly. So it's really about taking responsibility for your behavior must be high vibration. Where you're raising your value, Aquarius, is in your feelings. And this is really good. It's important. It's up to Aquariuses to feel good on their own terms and to put time and energy into just feeling good for feeling good's sake. It's time for Aquariuses to invest in their home and their family relationships and really ground themselves. You're not going to call in the age of Aquarius unless you're grounded. And being grounded means you're connected to your home and your family and your other feelings. I would say you would be great to do journaling. This last journal exercise that we just saw with Bill would be really great for Aquariuses right now to get in touch with how they feel. So Aquas, new love and dreams, moving away from an old reputation, taking responsibility for behavior with yourself, and raising the value of your emotional state. And then finally, but never leastly, the Pisces. Pisces are now going to feel different about life. So no matter how you felt in the past, Pisces, you're not meant to feel that way anymore. You're meant to feel differently now. You're moving away from old career. You're moving away from an old legacy. So some career is dying, some legacy is dying, some reputation is dying, and now you're moving into feeling better about yourself. You must take response. So this is very age of Aquarius. Pisces must take responsibility for their faith. So when a Pisces has real faith, that's when the age of Aquarius begins, when the Pisces are walking around the planet feeling faithful. So you must take, it's now time for Pisces to be spiritual. It's now time for Pisces to follow their spiritual path, whatever that is, whether that's creative, which is very, very spiritual, or literally like amens and things like that. So taking responsibility to stay in the faith and not the fear. If you're living in fear, you're falling into the age of Pisces. And it's time now to be in the age of Aquarius, which is faithful. The other area is you must have valuable thoughts. So for Pisces, your thoughts are either positive or they're constructing you, or they're negative or they're destructing you. And unfortunately, science has taught us to deconstruct everything. But in psychology, we need to be constructing, not deconstructing. Deconstruction is for science. Construction is for psychology. So it is time to build constructive thoughts, a constructive mind, and have a constructive self-dialogue. So for Pisces, it's time to focus on feeling better, leave those old agreements behind, take responsibility for your faith and your spirituality, and raise the value of your thinking and the way you talk to yourself. Okay. So that was a mouthful, but I know it was everything everyone needs to know. And in essence, this is the karma traps of this year. The karma trap, just to be very clear and wrap up, is if we fall into loveless situations where we're not aligning ourselves with love-based institutions, love-based life, love-based choices, then we're going to fall into the karma trap. And that means that it's going to be miserable. And also, what do we put our time and attention into? Investing in things we value, not investing in things that break us down. And being aware that we're going to think completely differently about who we are and our life by the end of the year. So whatever you're thinking, be prepared to think again. This is a time where we rewrite our story. All right, that is my presentation on karma. And with that, I leave it to any questions from any sign here in our panel that I could be of help to.